Okay, my friends, so you have made your string names diagram. You've gotten it glued on. I cannot stress this enough. We made a little secret pocket here, but you cannot put anything in it until that glue is definitely dry. It might be dry by the time you're done with this video, but it might not be, so be thoughtful about that. All right, the next thing that we're gonna do, you're gonna grab a writing utensil. You can make it colors if you like. For right now, I'm gonna stick with black, but I will be using colors later. And we have our little grid lines here. So we're gonna use those lines to keep ourselves organized. The first thing we're gonna do is something we did in theory book 1, where we're gonna draw where the nut of the violin is. As I'm sure you already know, the nut of the violin is this piece right here. It's not actually one piece with the fingerboard, which is this long black piece here. If you did theory book 1, you know all your terms. But for anybody who skipped that or who is new to the process, this is the fingerboard, and this piece looks like it's part of that, but it's actually its own separate little piece, and it's raised up a little bit. It's where the strings connect to the violin here at the top. So we're gonna draw a line that represents the nut, and that's gonna go right across this first fold line right here. You can see, I know the folds are kind of hard to see in the video, but if you look, you don't need to fold yours like this, but if you see where mine folds here, that's where you're gonna draw that line. So go straight across that line. It doesn't need to be perfect, okay? Remember, never needs to be perfect. All right, and we're gonna label that N-U-T. All right. Now, we're gonna put your string names at the top. So obviously these are the open strings. These are the notes with no fingers. So we have the G all the way over here. None of this is new information for all of you. Then we have the D, we have the A, and we have the E. And look how much I organized that into those little squares. Very neat, very tidy. Each little column represents one string. Now there's one other thing that I want to do before we get too deeply into note reading. Most violin players start with finger tape on their violins. Not everybody, but most. And if you were to look back at your finger tape, maybe you don't still have it, maybe you do, but if you were to look at finger tape, you would see that the first finger tape is a big space away from the nut. The second finger tape is a big space away from that. And then the third finger tape is close to the second finger tape. And then if you have a fourth finger tape, that's another big space, okay? So that your tapes end up being like this. If you're in violin playing position, it's from this angle, right? So there's a big space, no space, big space. So we are going to represent over here on the color part of your book where those tapes either are now or would have been. That's gonna be useful for figuring out high and low finger positions as we go. All right, so not this first bit right after the nut. We're leaving a space there. But right here, next to this next square right here, there's a fold line here and a fold line here. We're just gonna draw a little block and find my fold line there for a second. You might have to do the same thing. So there are my fold lines. And then I'm just drawing a little bracket right there, indicating that's where your first tape either is or would have been. That's gonna be handy for figuring things out, okay? Space, finger tape. Then we're gonna leave another space. So not this square right here, but this one would have been your second finger tape. So let's make a little bracket there also. Fold line to fold line, that would have been your second finger tape. Okay, and I'm not putting a 1 and a 2 on there for a reason right now, because those fingers move around. By the time that you're doing this kind of theory work, you've probably learned how to play maybe a low 2, or you're about to, or high 3, some sort of fancy finger change. And so we don't want to label them yet because your fingers are gonna be moving a little bit. Okay, so this is where the first finger tape went. Space, first finger, space, second finger, but second and third finger were close together, weren't they? So we're gonna put another little bracket that starts right where the last one left off, and then at the end of that square where the next fold line is, we're gonna connect that bracket. So that's where your third finger tape would have been. And finally, we're gonna label where the fourth finger tape would have been. Leave a space, because 3 and 4 are far apart when you first start. So then your fourth finger, you get a little bracket here, that's where the fourth finger tape would have gone. Okay, so you have your string names and you have where your finger tapes would have been. Okay, so that's it for this video. But remember, you have this other piece of paper, the other half of this, and I was telling you that you're gonna need that, right? And you also made a secret pocket. If your glue is dry, only if it's dry, you're gonna stick this in the secret pocket. If it's not, you can just leave it folded into your theory book until the glue is dry. All right, so fold this over, fold it on the lines so you don't mess up your previous work. Now you have it like this, maybe one fold in this direction. It's nice and tiny. And if you did your glue correctly, you should be able to just slot this in here. And look at that secret pocket. Happy practicing.